Good evening or good afternoon. Glad that we can start the seminar. I made a short introduction this morning about how I came to understand these things, and now we're going just to directly into the message itself, understanding what the body says. You know, we speak in different languages. I come from Germany, initially from Romania. So we may learn different languages by speaking, but the body language is the same in every human being. So when he speaks, he cannot lie. And understanding its message is essential for life. Not understanding his message means sooner or later death. So as a physician, when the patient comes to me, he comes to me with a body issue, a message that the body sends. If it's through headaches, through dermatitis, fever, even food fungus, or if it comes with flu-like symptoms, or a ringing in the ear, a tinnitus, even tooth decay when you have caries, or skin rash, whatever you have as a physical element, disease is a language of the body that speaks in every human being the same. And the question is, what does he say? Because if we don't understand what he says, the result is that we die on disease. So, as a physician, of course, I didn't know what the body says when I started. I could name the things, but I did not know where they come from. And that's very frustrating to have a profession in which you're supposed to be a professional, what it means in human beings, and now you need to tell your patient, I don't know. That's very frustrating, you know. Or we say it even a little bit more easy, we say, science doesn't know. So it's not personal. Yeah, so you're just the result of science, and if science doesn't know it, then of course you cannot know it. And I had about a few years after I started, I had a young patient. He was 24 years old, and he had a very strange symptom of his body. And strange things are very amazing. I mean, you hear about certain typical diseases, but there are, in a very typical disease, there are many symptoms that are still different from man to man or from woman to woman. So this young man had a symptom that is, whenever he went to the shower, after the shower, his skin was itching for 15 minutes. That's how it initiated the symptom. But meanwhile, it advanced so that now his skin is itching a whole hour after he's showering. So now, what do you do with such a symptom? It should be the opposite, and it should be, yes, you shower and then the rash, the skin itching stops. But it's exactly, in his case, an itching of skin is a nice thing. I tell you, I saw a patient that are having this strong issue for many years, and I could not even clean his ears because all the time he had to scratch himself. And that for many years, I think it was 11 years now that he had this issue. And there is no real medication that can stop that itching. So itching is sometimes worse than pain. Yeah? So, and here is this guy, and I look to him and I tell him, I know why your skin is itching after you have been doing your showers. And he looks surprised to me because, of course, he has been to other doctors as well, and every doctor tells him what? We don't know. It's a strange thing. It's just a strange thing. We don't know, and we would like to give you some cream, some antihistaminic or whatever we have for doing that, but it doesn't work. And so I said to him, look, I know why you have it. And he looks to me and says, how long are you in your practice? And I said, 6 years. How come that you in 6 years know what science doesn't know? It's impossible in 6 years to find out why my skin is itching after I do my shower. And he was a scientific, he just finished his study in chemistry. So he studied chemistry. And so he said, it's impossible that you know why my skin is itching because you're only 6 years in your practice. So how can you know that? Now, do you think you need much time to know things? Yeah, not necessary. I mean, you just find out and then you know it. So I asked him then another question because he questions my science so that he may see his black spot. Yeah, it's very hard to see your own black spot, is it? And I said to him, do you know where the power from the atom comes from? You know, a chemistry student or one who had made his studies in chemistry should know where the power of the atom comes from. Does the atom have power? Where does it come from? And he said to me, if I would knew that, I would be in the news. I said, wow. So you study a lot of things and you don't know where the power of the atom comes from. So that's how we think. He knows for sure that the power of the atom doesn't come from the atom, because if the power would come from the atom, he would say the power comes from the atom. But by law, we will see that that's not possible. The power that everything has must come from outside of that element. So the hard thing for us is to realize that things are more simple than we believe. Or we are, how can I say, used to think. So this itching of the skin, I invited him to come for counseling because I would like to help him to see the cause so that he can remove it, and then his skin will stop itching after he makes his shower. If not, he ends up one day not showering at all, which is just to avoid the itching if it gets more. So what does the body speak when he speaks? And we have learned that he communicates by accident or never by accident. Can the body tell any lies? Can he just give a signal and there is no cause for it? Yes or no? No, there is no way that there is no cause for it. So he gives signals when he's missing something. He gives signals when something is too much. You know, when we had the potluck, it's always a danger to eat too much, is it? And when I saw that food, I said, who will eat this food here? And of course, there was a lot that remained over. Yeah? So you know when it's too much because there's a limit to the body. And he also tells you when you injure him, when it gives you pain. And he usually doesn't say nothing, so to say, or he confirms that everything is fine. So he's silent when there is no need for him, because we were made to feel good all the time. So we can even feel better than good. Yes, we have times when we feel better than good. But the normal state is to feel always good. So will we ever do anything when we feel good? Or just being nice? Yeah, so there's no way to do something if the symptom is positive. So we have a lot of negative symptoms that are very life-saving. So hunger, is it life-saving or? Yeah? So it shows us the lack of food. Thirst is the missing of water. Tiredness, lack of sleep. Shortness of breath is lack of oxygen. Freezing is lack of warmth. Sweating is too much heat. And now the first idea that I would like to catch your attention tonight is, if you would misunderstand one of that, what would be the result? By example, you would think hunger is lack of warmth. By just example, yeah? So you feel hunger and you think, I must put some clothes on because I'm missing warmth. What would happen? You would die because the more hunger you get, the more clothes you put on, or you put the heater on, or whatever, because you believe something that is not correct. So, not understanding the message of the body means finally death. And this is why people don't die of hunger or thirst, but they die of disease. Because inflammation, pain, tumors, cancer, high blood pressure, and so on, they are the most strongest body language. And he speaks in 5 different ways. You know, all 5 senses are included. The smell, the taste, the feelings, the hearing, and also the seeing. Yeah? You can have all of them included as a message, but if you don't understand them, finally you die. This is why people today, from in between 40 and 60, most people die on cancer or depression or suicide, whatever they have, because no one tells them what their body tells them. And if you don't know what the body tells you, you just give a pill against it, or you do some natural remedies, but you don't know, okay, this is the lacking that the body tells me. And this is the case that we have today. We have no idea that disease is not a threatening thing that you fight against. That you need to fight against that, what causes the disease, is it? Because the disease is there, like hunger and thirst, to help you resolve the lack of that issue. So when you die of hunger, do you die of hunger or of lack of food? It's the lack of food you die. So you need to eat, and then you solve your problem. And in the case of disease, it must be the same thing. So what is the body telling you that you miss? Because when you go to the doctor, you certainly don't miss the pain. You don't miss the painkiller, or when you have an allergy, you don't miss the antihistaminics or the cortisol. You miss that. What is it that you miss? Or when you have depression, do you miss the serotonin things, hormones, or what do you miss? What do you miss? What is it? So this is the blindness of medicine, that you go to the doctor and he has no idea what you miss. And then he has learned a lot of things, skill, and can give you treatment for it, but he doesn't know the mother and the father of the child. We know names, but we don't know where they come from. And I believe this is the most tragic thing that we have here today. And you go wherever you go, and the cause, no one will tell you. Yeah? Now, if you have a flu, they say it's a virus or bacteria, or, But if you have an inflammation that is just in your bones and there's nothing external that entered there, so where do you have that inflammation? How does it appear? So this situation in which I faced at the beginning of my practice was unsatisfying for me. And of course, I shared with you the quotes. I read Ministry of Healing, and I learned something there about love and these things, but I could not put them together because how shall I do it? And so I went to God, and He helped me to understand that which is very plain, because the body can never communicate by accident, and all His communications are for saving life. But the ones that are showing us our lacks must be very, how can I say, strong, so that we can do something about it. So I started to understand that in medicine I was missing a lot of things. You learn for so many years, you go to university, then you go to specialty, and at the end, you know how much? Oh yes, you know to name it, to give a prescription, but you don't know why. And to not know why, I believe is a terrible thing. Yeah? So yes, you might not do much worse when you give something to treat, but you still not do that what a professional should do. Imagine you have a house and your wall gets wet, and you search and find call the professional, and he gives you some paint that you should paint over that wall so that the water should not come through. Would you like that kind of a painter? No, but you go to the physician. He does the same thing. Yes, he just paints walls because he does not know where the wetting comes from. Yeah, you treat a symptom, but what will win in the end? The disease will win, yeah? Because what it shows is stronger than anything else. And we'll see what it is. So the decisive element that I was missing, I will prove to you that it's love. And that disease is in reality the body language of missing love. And that was surprising for me, and it will be surprising for you, but I cannot change it. Because we must see that that's what we live from. This is why disease is the strongest language. It's stronger than hunger, stronger than thirst, because all those are just the sustainer of life, but they are not the fuel of life. And that makes a difference when it is about the fuel of life, that what gives life, and that what sustains life. So the tragedy is that we don't know ourselves, and the doctors also not knowing it. So where do we end up in the end? Yeah, so suffering, if we don't die earlier, that we suffer and suffer, and in reality, we could all avoid that long-term suffering. So how did I come to understand what the body tells when we get sick. And of course, I prayed to God. I said, I need to know it. Because in that book, Ministry of Healing, there is an interesting description. It says, a doctor needs first to ascertain the cause. I said, well, yes, ascertain the cause, but where should I search? The second step is solve the cause. Yes? So that's what the mind is clear. And the third step is therapy. And those are the 8 doctors that we in Adventism know so well. A new start. Unfortunately, we missed the 2 first points and we just used the third one. And we think the therapy is also the cause of disease. But the 8 doctors don't heal nothing because they don't resolve the cause of it. They just sustain nature to recover, but they don't remove the cause. That's why you can do new study as much as you want. You still die on your cancer or on your stroke or on your heart attack because that what makes the disease is not seen. So there is an order. Cause first, remove the cause, and then you apply the needs to help nature to recover. So this is why I did not go so much into giving therapy, but wanting to know the cause, ascertain the cause. Now you read that book, you read it, you see your patient, and you don't know. Now, what did I do to do it? I made it as simple a way. I took the patient and his age, and you have the age line there. And on the one side, I took the physical history. So you take the list of physical complaints. That is, headache, since when? You put it in the timeline there. And neck tension, since when? And you put it in the timeline. Tinnitus, the ring in the ear. When did it happen? When did it start? Since when? And then you put the dizziness or any physical symptom that the body tells you, you put in a timeline when it arrives, when it started, and when it comes, and so forth. And then to make the whole picture, you do surgical interventions. When did you take out your tonsils, your appendix, gallbladder, or any other surgery that was done? Those are some that are very common, and also the thyroid surgery there. And you put it in the timeline so that you realize when that happens. And children and deliveries in women, if they had miscarriages. So you put every symptom the body tells you and puts it down. Because you know that the body cannot lie. And now I did that, what God helped me to do. I put on the other side the mental history of the same person. So I took his relationships. I took the relationship between the parents, the relationship with mother, with father, spouse, children, special events like marriage, divorce, death of loved ones. And I put them all in the timeline. When did they take place? And then you put employment conditions, of course, occupational unemployment, and of course also special events like traumas, abuses, and you put them all there in a timeline, wanting to know when it happened, and so to make to have a picture, a whole picture of that person. Yeah. So what was my observation? What would be the observation of everyone who would do that? What would you think comes first? The red one or the dark one? The red one comes first. With any exclusions? With any exceptions? There's no exception. Like I said to you, I did it at least with 20,000 patients, and I never saw a exception. Because something comes first, and something comes second. So here we have events in one life and ways of thinking that reflect themselves in the body. And now you see it, but you don't know how it works. I was very amazed the first 2.5 years in my practice. I did this, and I had to be convinced that it's the thought that makes the disease. It's a thought. Because we had back then from our 6 foster children, 3 were still at home. They were teenagers. And I went home every night and I told them the stories that I heard from my patient. I said, look, they get a paralysis of the vocal cord because she found out her husband cheated on her, or he got a ear infection because the husband was delivered to the hospital a day before, or he got a ring in the ear because the girlfriend left him, or any stories that I had there, and they were weird things. I mean, would you believe it? And my teenager, how did they react to me? Were they very excited, say, you're the best doctor that exists here? So they said, how will you ever prove that it's their thoughts, that it's the missing of love, that in reality causes the physical element? How will you prove that? And so they challenged me, and I said, what I observed, I must also prove. Because observation is subjective. And if you cannot prove your point, then even you observe it, it still remains your own observation. And it's not something that is absolute and it's clear. Because in this time I met and listening to the stories of these people, you meet so many cases that are so poor. I mean, they're really in a difficult situation. Like I met my most strange case just a few weeks ago, being in a country in Europe, and there is this young girl, she's 20 years old, and her symptoms started 2 years ago. The strange symptoms started 2 years ago. When she was 14 or 15, she got depression and anxiety. And she was put on antidepressants because, do the doctors know why this teenager gets into depression? Not really. So that's why they put her on medication. But not knowing the cause, that what causes it must do the next symptom. At the age of 18, suddenly, while she was driving in the car, she was not the driver one, she was sitting on the passenger seat, her legs stopped working. So she could not get out of the car anymore. So her legs were totally paralyzed and she could not walk for 6 months. For 6 months, they were in hospital, they do all these interventions, taking MRIs, liquid from your the spinal cord. You do all those things to find out why. And in reality, they find nothing. Nothing they can handle, nothing they can put on. so that they can say, this is it. And so after 6 months, suddenly her legs work again. And a few days later, her vocal cords were paralyzed. Now she cannot speak anymore. So the things just switched from one part to the other. And for 6 weeks, for 6 months, she could not speak. And meanwhile, in this time, she started to have seizures, but not epileptic seizures, just absence. She lost her consciousness for a while, and then she when she once lost her consciousness for a seizure for 15 minutes, she woke up remembering nothing. Total amnesia. She could not, she was with her boyfriend, and when she came back, she did not know who he is. She did not know who his mother is, who his sister is, knowing no one. Imagine what a weird thing it is. She's a mathematical student. She's a bright mind, so to say, as a, very intelligent. And she can now not remember. She needs to learn everything. That happened November last year. And when that happened, the vocal cords started to work again. Yeah. So finally, the doctors, they give a definition to everything, because you must give it. And it's sometimes hard for me to memorize, but it's how does it say? They say it's oh, sorry. Oh my. So here it says, I may have deleted the name. It's neurological dysfunction, or it's a strange word. Yes, just describes that it's a neurological dysfunction in your brain. Yeah. Can it happen by accident? Is there a cause for this or not? Now imagine this, she's 20 years old now. If the doctors would know really what is with her, would it not be good to solve the case? And as long as she did not have the loss of memory, things are more easy. But now she just has from hearing her issues. And normally I can go back to her story and I can prove her from her story what causes the symptom. And now I had to speak with her and her the assistant that is with her for 8 hours a day to help her, because she can walk now, but she's in a wheelchair, because if she gets a seizure, so she should not get injured. But she can walk, she can speak. She has just these seizures, and the last symptom was whenever she gets stressed from a certain situation, she falls into a short seizure and forgets the last 20 minutes. Yeah, so she's eclipsing the last 20 minutes. She can remember then the 20 minutes before, but the last 20 minutes it's gone. Is it a nice symptom? I mean, I was amazed about the case, but of course, understanding the human being, you know exactly what the lady had. You know exactly. And her history that she told me, and that her assistant helping me to reconstruct what happened in her childhood, just confirmed the disease beautifully. She has siblings, and she has a smaller sister. And when she got her depression at the age of 14, 15, her sister was just 2 years younger. She got anorexia nervosa, so she started not to eat and to, they both started symptoms in that family that every doctor should understand. But not all the doctors, parents should understand. We should know how life works so that we can prevent them, and if we don't prevent them, at least when they appear, we can do something about it. And her history is very simple. She was born in a dysfunctional family that separated when she was 8 years old. And at the age of 10, she quit talking to her father. She quit having any relationship with him because, usually fathers are the wrongdoers sometimes in the family. And then the symptoms start. Mother is alone. There are difficult situations, and no one knows how to handle those things because we have never been taught in school, in the church, how should we treat things that are not normal. I mean, they might be normal in our world today, but they're still against life. Still against life. So, having this history, and I hope she will recover. Yeah, I promised her that if she can understand, and she could understand very well, she was very bright. I explained how the system works, and she grasped it right away. I was amazed, but now she needs to apply it, and we'll see, because she needs to change something in her way to think. Towards whom? Towards whom does she need to change her thought? So, towards her father and her mother, because she needs to love in order to recover. If she holds anything back, she gets into problem. It's more than forgiveness, but we will see that during the seminar. Things are very simple if you know them once. But if you don't know them, such a disease is just overwhelming you, and you have no tool to do anything there. I was fortunate that her mother also came, but she was just there at the end of the conversation. But I hope and pray that they will grasp the thing, and I gave her my booklet. So it's all about understanding first, and then agreeing with it, so to be able to also put it into practice. So all my stories are very similar, are identical, that we find something in our lives that is challenging us in our relationships and brings us into trouble. And seeing that, after 2.5 years, I came to realize that disease is the result of lacking of love. Because it always happens in relationships. Are we aware that we live from relationships and not from food? Are we aware that there is nothing more important than love in life? Are we aware of that? Well, maybe so in certain cases, but in general, not. I mean, if you could come to me, and I'm an ENT, but I do the whole body, because you come with me with kidney stones, and I tell you it's lack of love, would you like me as a doctor? I would say, yeah, what come with the kidney stones? You have the kidney stones on the right side, on the left side, or sometimes on both sides. So how does this doctor tell me the kidney stones come because of lack of love? You see, that's how it is. Or your ingrown nail. You know, the toenail, you know, ingrown nails? Yeah? They don't come from the shoes. Because how shall the shoe do it? There's only one thing that can make the ingrown nails. I had this beautiful case, and I was in my country where I was born, in Romania. And a year ago, not this year, a year ago, in March, I had a seminar there, and there came a couple for counseling, and they had a daughter that was 15 years old, and she had an ingrown nail on her toe. I don't know exactly right or left. And the doctors proposed to do surgery. You know, I did this kind of surgeries when I was a student with my doctor. It's a very, they're nice surgeries, but this one is not a nice one. Yes, you have to cut the nail and the root of the nail, and you leave an open wound there that now needs to heal by itself, and you don't even suture it because you want now that the nail should grow straight and not going into your skin and flesh. Yeah, and so I said I would suggest to change the cause. And this year, after the same place, I did another seminar, and then they came to me and said, our daughter's nail healed after they solved the problem. Because that's nature. It is a law. If you remove the cause, the effect must also disappear. So the ingrown nails, the fungus on your toes or wherever you have them, on your nails, it's also a lack of love. You may not understand that. And I couldn't understand it as well. But I had no other, I didn't find in 2.5 years anything else in my patients' cases except their mental issues, which always were in relationships. So what do? Do I shut my eyes and reject it? Or do I open up and say, well, let's find it out. Is it so or not? Because in any case, if we compare this, you might find out that the one is first and the other one is second. The one is the cause and the other is the effect. And on mind level, what do we have more than love? Tell me. We'll see. So, this is all we need. We all know that we need oxygen and we need water. We need food. We need sleep sometimes. And also some warmth. Is that fulfilling our lives? Yes, there are needs that we need absolutely. But are they making up life? I had to see that it's not the truth. What are humans' treasures? What do humans treasure most? What brings us the greatest joy in life? What do we search? It's relationships. When a young lady writes to her mother at the age of 19, "Mother, I want to die. Don't give me any food anymore, because from now on I don't eat anything because I want to die." Why does she do that? She's 19. You just start life. You just open your eyes. What do you miss? What do you miss in order to want to die? Yes, there can be only love. So the boyfriend left her. And boyfriends are... I thought that boyfriends are the purpose of life, yes, for a girl. Yeah? And when they're gone, what do? You better don't live anymore, because life is made out of love. And love can only be experienced in relationships. And when I say love, there is included all that what is a spiritual element, like righteousness, justice, security, freedom. All the spiritual needs that are not physical are included in that one word, love. Because it's all there together. And it can only be experienced in relationship. This is why I saw that relationships determine our life. Are we ever in life without relationship? When do our relationships start? Well, in the moment of conception. In the moment of conception, the embryo binds itself to its mother. Does it have a choice to live without mother? No, there is no way to live without a love source and a physical source. And we will see later how that works. But there is no place, no time in our lives where you are without relationship. There is time that you don't need to eat. There's time when you even stop breathing for a few minutes. There is time where you don't need to sleep all the time. But relationships are never, ever missing. You're there from the moment of your existence with your mother, and usually you stay with your mother till you die. Because it's a relationship, it's a connection that is conscious or unconscious. What do you think? Well, both is always the right answer. But our relationships in reality are subconscious processes. That's why we don't know about them. So we don't know that love is supplied unconsciously and not consciously. We believe it's consciously, but that's the ignorance of how we work, how we function, because if we would be aware how things work, we would be experts, I should say, and that we would be very clear. So the connection to a love source is always present. There is never a time you can be disconnected. It's just not possible. By function, we will see that. All the other elements, you have a tolerance so that you can say, okay, I don't eat today, I don't eat for 40 days or how long. But on spiritual level, there is never a time where you can be disconnected from your love source. So relationships are things that are there even when you separate from others, you're still in a relationship with them. You know that? Because in memory, you have them stored in time, and they will affect you even if you don't think consciously, because the process is an unconscious process. So, understanding this, I came to understand the conditions of life. That's why I call my seminar The Law of Life, because life is conditioned. There is no life that is unconditional, you know that? And if all our needs would be fulfilled, then we would have normal functions and 100% health. So that's when we are in those two lines that make the law of life. So when we are outside of those things, we have dysfunction or disease, and the tolerance time until death is just to figure out what we miss, so in order to avoid death. But if we don't figure out in that lines on the sides, between the two lines, we get to the point where the tolerance time is over, and then the system shuts down. So what are our needs? In order to always satisfy them, in order to always having enough of them. So we all know the physical needs, the oxygen and water and warmth and all those things. That's always happens. Yes, this is it's if so even if in any seminar, even if the people say it, please turn off your phones, they never do it. And we will see when we look to the subconscious why they don't do it. And then when they ring, they don't know how to stop it. Yes, and that's so amazing. And it's amazing that no matter what you tell them, it still doesn't work. So I never say people don't shut down your phones, because it never works. Because there's something more important than the message, the messenger. Yeah, well, it's like I know. But I just say the situation of it, and if you understand it, it's fine. You don't get so much distracted. So, returning to our needs. So we all know we have physical needs, and our body will tell us when we lack of them. Yes, we have body reactions when it's too cold. Yes, and we have body reactions when it's too warm. Yeah, so do we choose those reactions? Are they conscious or unconscious? Yeah, they just come because we need that. And the body tells it, you are outside the limit in which you should be. That's with hunger, that's with thirst, as we saw. And we all learned those things. We don't say, okay, sweating is good, and then we go further, except we are in the sauna or so. We do that for a while, but even there, it comes a time when you have to go out of that heat, yeah, because it's going too much. But now we have not understood that we don't have only physical needs. We also need love, that is righteousness, liberty, security, and those things are just in our thoughts. Now, in spiritual terms, there are no tolerances. That means you cannot have half or 99% freedom. Yes? Because 99% freedom is no freedom. So that's why spiritual needs are always 100%. Love is 100%, it cannot be 99%. Yes, I love you a little bit, like we say sometimes. But it must be 100% always. That's why there is never too much love. Or is it? Some people come to me and say, my mother loves me too much. Yes, so mothers are really happy. The love of a mother goes beyond everything we think. Yeah? And then the patient comes and says, my mother loves me too much. I say, well, if she loved you too much, that means she did not love you really. Because mother's love is a very free love, is it? Or no free love? Mother's love is a controlling love. Yes? Because mothers know everything. It's however, mothers know everything. And you can be 70 years old and your mother 90. She still knows it better than you. Yeah? So it's it's amazing to see. I once had a man, because men are interesting beings, like women also, but men especially, they don't know themselves. You see, a woman is more aware of herself more than a man. And this gentleman comes because he has an earring egg on one of his ears. It was the right ear, and he had this pain for 9 months. Now, men don't go to the doctor except the women send them to the doctor. Yeah, it's very often so, because women are more aware of yeah. And just, I think last week I had this guy who said, in my case, my wife sent me also to solve the problem. Yeah, and so he comes with this ear issue for 9 months. He has this pain, and 6 weeks before, he got a tendon of the Achilles was ruptured on the opposite side of the ear. And now he came with this, like a casket, to fix the food, so he couldn't walk well. And I said, right ear, left leg. Or it was left ear, right leg. But it was the opposite side. Would you ever guess that what causes the ear pain also ruptures your tendon of the Achilles? That's the biggest tendon that we have. It's the strongest. It never ruptures by accident. It must be rotten before it ruptures. Yes, and it rottens from within, not from out. So it's an inflammation that ruptures then, and then of course when you do the effort, it may get a few files ruptured. So here he comes, and of course I look into his ears. How much do I find there? There's no inflammation, or the pain is a constant pain for 9 months, and I ask him if he has something on his mind. To find out what he lacks. Because it's lack of love, is it? So he says he has no problem. Like men have no problem. If you ask a woman, she will tell you 10. But men, they don't have problems. It's an amazing difference between men and women, It's really amazing. And you wouldn't believe it if you don't see it. Yeah? And here he tells me he has no issues. And I asked him specifically because I know why he had the sides about his children, if he has an issue with his child, and he does not say anything. But the fortune was that he came with his mother. He's 50-something, and his mother was with him, but they came both together, and I took them both in the room because she would be the next patient. Yeah. So, and then I turned to the mother and said, "Does he really have no issues in life? No problems?" And then the mother said, if you ask mothers, they know everything. Yeah. Even what you don't know, they know about you. And so I asked her, and she said, "Well, there are issues." And then suddenly he came alive and said, "I have something." You see, that's good when you have a mother with you. And so he told me his story. And his story was I could have, according to the symptoms, when you want to know how things work, it's very, very simple, very easy to know. So a year ago, he got a phone to his 11-year-old son. There comes a time where the children want phones, do they? Can they control them? Can they control the phone? No, because they live from what? From food or from information? Oh, they live from information. They can not eat just to stay on that phone. Because we live from information. That's why they invented Facebook and Instagram and Y and X and True Social, whatever there is, in order to have communication. information. And so he gets an issue with what? His son stays more on the phone, his school grades lower, is distracted, he doesn't listen. Is he in a conflict with his son? Yes? Yes. He is in a conflict with his son exactly since his ear started hurting. Is he aware of that? Does he love his son? Or does he want to force his son to the good? You see, there is something in the human being that makes him to impose the good on others. Can you control your child? Mothers, can you control your child? Yes or no? I tell you, there is no way. You can do whatever you want because we were made all to be free, to do what we want. But you don't tell that to children. Yeah? So, the child Jesus did not listen to his mother when she sent him to school. You know that. People said, there's a school saying your child needs to go to school. And she says, Mother, I'm sorry. Where is it written that I need to go to school? You like that? So Jesus never went to school. Because he didn't need it. So don't tell that you're to a child, so he might say, Mom, I don't go to school. Like this was in one of my seminars, there was a young boy, he was, I think, 7 or 9 years old. And after the next day, the mother puts him to make his piano lessons. And then the child says to Mother, Mother, you remember the doctor said last night that you cannot force me to do my piano lessons. It's just a delight when a child says, Mother, you cannot force me to nothing. Yes? Mothers enjoy that. And so the mother came to tell it to me then a day later at a seminar. So children are very aware that they need freedom. And you cannot force them. They finally do the piano lessons because there are certain dependencies there, and he wants to avoid more difficulties, so he finally may do it. But there comes a time when he's 14. Like I always tell you real cases that I met. When you have your daughter, your child, that grows up in the church, it sings in Sabbath school, it does all things right, and you think you have the best child. And at the age of 14, it comes to you and says, Mother, until now I did what you said. From now on, I do what I want. And everything was over. Child didn't go to church anymore. Went away. How much can mother do? So, there's something in us that we cannot control. In the life of others. And so, this man loves his child in a certain way. And he wants to enforce in his life the good. How much chance does he have? None. So he fights the impossible. And whenever we fight the impossible, we injure our own body. It's not a conscious process. It's totally subconscious. So he needs to change the way he thinks towards his child. Easy? Not so easy, because he wants the good. Now, if he takes away his phone, will he have success? Yes or no? No, because I have those cases where the parents take away the phone, or you need to give it up before you go to bed. And then they have a second phone, or, they have some tricks to give mother the fake phone, and then you use the right one in your bedroom. But there is no way, because God made us to govern ourselves. There's no way to govern another person. That would be the opposite of love. Forcing is not love. So, not knowing all this, we are not aware how important it is how we treat and live in our relationship. So love must be 100%, cannot be half. And our body has reactions. How many reactions are to our thoughts that come up in our body? So, is it disease in all its forms? And after 22 years of seeing it, I cannot deny it. And I can only acknowledge it, that we live from our thoughts. And our thoughts live from our relationships. Because love is the fuel of life, as I said this morning. And as this fuel is only satisfied through relationship. There's no other way to satisfy your need for love except in relationship. And now, we all are born in families, and what I could observe, it's not the people that are very far away that you get into trouble, but it's always the people in your own family. So the most vulnerable relationship is child and mother. It's the strongest one, the binding of the child to its mother, and it's that what may cause most of our diseases. Because do you ever disconnect from mother? It's a very hard thing to understand, especially men. Will they ever disconnect from their mother? No. Men are very connected to their mothers, and that's why it's very, very difficult. That's why I said this one patient came to me and said, my husband is 70 years old, but he still listens to his mom who is 90. Yeah, that's how it is. So mother is strong. Relationship to father is also, but it's not that heavy than the mother relationship, because we are not growing up in a physical attachment to mother as well. We don't grow up in the father, but in mother. Then we have marriage or partner relationships, brothers and sister relationships. Those are nice relationships until your parents pass away or there is something to inherit. And then you forget that you have a brother and a sister, because inheritance is more important. You have no idea how many people divide when it's about inheritance. How many diseases appear because you cannot think well about your brother and your sister because he inherited more from the parents than you. And you think it's unjust. And you need to fight for your right. And you don't know that fighting for your right destroys your own body. You're not aware of it. Because you want righteousness, you want justice. And you don't know that that is something that hurts yourself. And so, unfortunately, why does the husband become the wife of his enemy, or his wife's enemy, or vice versa? Why does the child gets in his mother an enemy? Why? What is it that ruins relationships? Because if relationships would be correct, we would eliminate disease from our bodies. Would you like that? If relationship would be exactly like God made it, we would eliminate disease. So, relationships being only in our thoughts, we need an answer to a few questions. What are thoughts? Do we have a definition of thought? Not even that. Maybe you ask your AI instructor. and ask him, where do thoughts come from? Do you think he knows that? Where do thoughts come from? You need to have the place where a thought arises. And then, most important is, where does a thought start? Where does a thought start? Does it need to start somewhere? Or can it start everywhere? Is there a process in the way we think that's a starting point or not? Yes, there must be. There's nothing that doesn't start. God has no starting point. But everything that is created must have a starting point. And thoughts need to start somewhere. They need to have an initiation. And if we know that, that was one of those things that I wanted to know by all means, because if I don't know where thought starts, I don't know how to fix them. Because when you see that your patients destroy their body by the way they think, you need to know, okay, where does this difficulty starts so that it arises at this end? And then, what can they do? How much power does a thought have? Now, we don't have a child here of 10 years or 12 years. Sometimes I have them and then I invite them to come front, and I ask them, how much emphasis would you put on your own thoughts when it comes to health or disease? What is the answer of the child? Not much, not much. Exactly that is. They're a reflection of how we think about health. Thought? You go to a health center, do they ask you about your mother and your father? Oh, they ask you, what did you eat? How much did you do this, and this, and this? And you don't even are aware that when your mother passed away, in the next 2 months or 3, you have a lot of symptoms in your body. You have a high blood pressure, you have increasing your weight, your bones are starting to hurt, just because your mother passed away. And you're not even aware how it works. So you know that in reality, if disease is caused by the way we think, so when we give treatment, against who do we fight? Against what? Against our thoughts. Who will win? Who will win? Always the thought. That's why we die on disease. Because there is no medication against the power of your thoughts. There's no medication for that. Because everything you see around yourself is the result of thoughts. God created with words. He thought, and He said, and it was. So the power of life is not in the food, it's in what you think. And it's almost in medicine, thinking or having a clear pattern of how it works is not there. Because if thoughts make us sick, what would you need to do? Give medications or teach? Yeah, teach. And that's why this wonderful book, Ministry of Healing, says the physician, it's a title of a chapter, the physician and educator. A physician is there to educate people. Because if it comes from their thought, how much can he do for them? How much? He can do nothing directly to them. He can just present them and show them how things work. So in order that they pick it up and do it themselves. So that's why a teacher is an educator, is a medical doctor is a teacher. That's why I'm teaching. Yeah? Because I cannot really help. I cannot help my patient. I tell them the only way to help is you understanding how you work so that you stop that what destroys you. You cannot even heal yourself. But if you cut yourself all the time with the way you think, at least you can stop it. So that's the thing we need to understand, the power of the thought and what is their role in health. You see, can you ever make an industry that runs the world if by teaching you could bring people to health, would you still have some income? So you see, we would solve the problem if we would teach the people. But how much interest is in one that wants to do business with his natural remedies in order to tell you you need to change the way you think? And it's in your hands and not in the physician's hands. And it's not in physical things. Health is not a physical matter. So we will start tomorrow night looking to the law and then, of course, understanding also the law of relationship. We as Adventists are very law-focused people, but unfortunately we are like the Jewish people and other people in the time of Jesus, where they looked to the letter of the law but never understood why God wrote the law on 2 tables. And that's all about love. Yes, we look to the, the 10 Commandments are a description of the law, but they're not the law. But now you look to the description as being the law. Can you be fooled or not? Yes, so you have a pointer and you look to the description of the pointer, and will that satisfy you? So mixing up things is terrible, because those who would understand the law of relationship that is in the 2 tables, they would live differently. They could understand things. So we will only know it when we know how the law, the fundamental nature law works. Then we need to know the human being, and we'll study that as much as we can to understand why he has, how many parts he's composed on, and why love is the means by which he lives. The information is love. Love can be transmitted only through information that is bound to a person. And so there must be a starting point where the information comes into your mind. Yes, there must be an entrance. If you have no entrance, how will it go there? And so that's the most important thing, to know where the entering thing is for information, because you know where you enter your oxygen, you know where enters your food, and if you don't know where the fuel of life enters, then there would be a great thing to be missed. So by God's grace, we will teach that, learn that,